The Susan Brender Show is a radio show online broadcasted on YouTube across the United States and globally. The show features guests who speak about health, spirituality, entertainment, and a host of subjects to enlighten people across the nation. Listen to the show that empowers women and men alike and highlights those who have made a difference. I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Today we have a friend of the Susan Brender Show on our show again, and his name is Paul Carinci, and John has been an insurance man for so long, but for some reason he's decided that he wanted to be an author, and he has written virtually, let's put it to you this way, he's writing now almost book number 19, and his stories are so interesting, and all of them have a real life's purpose. But before we actually talk about the books, what I want to ask you, John, is that in this crisis that we have now, which is the coronavirus, is it inspiring you to write another book that really deals with how people are dealing with this issue, which is, as I said before, a crisis? What do you think about that? And have you been thinking about writing a book that deals with this subject matter?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on the show once again. You've got a great show, and you reach a lot of people, and you're helping people with so many different things over the years. It's great. I don't know how many years you've been doing it, but it's been a while.
Yes, it's really true.
What is happening in the world today is a little scary, and there are people who are getting sick and they get over it right away, and then there's people who are young, healthy, very healthy, and they pass away, and it's just amazing. And again, it's quite scary, but we have to put it in perspective. So, I'm writing, and there's so many books in the works, so many books being published. The typist just finished another one, because I write in longhand, and she types it up for me, and there's one in waiting for her to type again. And while I'm working on book 17, 18, I put it on hold, and I says, you know what? People in the country and the world are disillusioned, and I have to write another self-help book. And once I get something in my mind, I become consumed with it. And we don't really know the word consumed the way I know the word consumed. Every waking moment, and right before I fall off to sleep, I am thinking about this book. And in a matter of, I didn't really time it, but I think it's 10 days, the book is more than halfway done. And while I was waiting for your call to begin, I was, again, working on that book. It's just I am consumed with it. The last time this happened, I put out a book called Awesome Success Principles and Quotations, and that was the third self-help book. All the rest of my books are novels, but the self-help books have been translated into foreign languages, and they are selling actually better in foreign languages than they are in America, because there's so many different authors here. But I'm writing like crazy on that book, and I just wanted to bring something up because people are so depressed over this virus, but we have to put it in perspective, and one of my chapters is going to be, and this shall pass. This too shall pass. World of pandemics by years, and what I do is I list out the pandemics of the world in the past, and it really is amazing. And then the wars and how many things happened. But and I'm not going to list them all here, but 1918 was the Spanish flu, and 50 million people worldwide died. And then you know what happened right after that? There was the Roaring '20s, a lot of dancing, singing, and then we had World War II. Very, very depressing. 85 million people died. And then there was a big baby boom after that, and then there was the Korean War. So what comes to mind is a song that most people don't even know, and it was recorded by Frank Sinatra, and it's called Cycles. And it's a kind of a depressing song. But in the song, he just, because he lost his girlfriend, he lost his job, he's really down and out. But it says, so I'm down and out, but so are many others. So I feel like trying to hide my head neath these covers. Life is like the seasons. After winter comes the spring. So I'll keep this smile a while and see what tomorrow brings. It's a great little song. But that's what I'm working on right now, trying to pump people back up again. And the last time I really was consumed, I put out the book right after 9/11, and that was The Power of Being Different, a tremendous self-help book, and I put that right after the 9/11. I published that one.
You know, John, I'm going to interrupt you for a second, and I'm going to ask you this. You're talking about this is a cycle that we go through here in America where and not only in America, all over the world, where there are travesties and different kinds of horrors that go on. And yet, right now we're dealing with this pandemic, and people are taking it very seriously to the point where, as you said, they're getting depressed and they're getting anxious, they're staying in, they're being forced in a way to avoid being with other people, so that's isolation. Now, your books, and you talk about your self-help books, you wrote these books, or some of these books, even before this happened, because and that's what I want to know. Did you have some sort of inspiration that said to you at some point, I know we're going to have all these issues going on in the world, and we have to take care of them, and the way that I do it is to write books and to give people hope?
Actually, the self-help books are exactly to that point where I have to give back. I'm very, very successful in life and business and give back. And we've shared many times with you before how at age 21, an Olympic champion helped me to success from failure. I was failing at insurance sales in age 21, 1977, and this Olympic champion spoke at a seminar, and when I shook his hand, he told me to go out and buy this specialized book, and it changed my life, and I never looked back. And I vowed over the years to help people, and I have changed people with my self-help books, and this will be the fourth one. Of course, it's not out yet, but it's going very, very fast.
I hear you. So give us a little taste of what is going to be in that book.
Well, it's just, it puts things in perspective. Understanding motivation. What is motivation? Why do some people have it and some people flounder? Why are some people so successful and some people just, they go through life following the follower, as I call it? Appreciating life we have. We speak about the greatest miracle in the world. Each one of us is the greatest miracle in the world. And when we delve into the human body and you start to realize what the human body is made up of, you realize that you are the wealthiest person in the world, no matter if you have $5 in your pocket or $5 million. And the guy that has $5 million, he can't buy one more a moment on Earth, basically. So we look at that. We delve into inventors, successful people, how people turn their life around from basically failure and nothing to very, very success. And I'm inspired myself when I do all this research, and I find that people, they had nothing, living in a trailer, and then all of a sudden, that was Stephen King. That's what happened to Stephen King. He had no money. He had to disconnect his telephone because he could not afford his telephone. He took the story Carrie and was so disgusted that he threw it in the garbage. And his wife picked it up out of the garbage and says, "This is wonderful." She was a writer too. She says, "This is wonderful. You sit down and you finish this book." And the rest is history. That was the first book. He became very famous. I forget how many, was it 35 million copies of something was sold.
Sure.
And then movies and one after the other. And I go in the bookstore and I look at Stephen King book and I says, because I'm an author, but holy cow, those things are so thick. I don't know how long it would take me to write one of those books.
Yeah. Which brings up the point that if you have sort of a good attitude about things, and you also think that, why not? That's the question that you ask yourself. Why not? Why don't I do it? Why don't I persevere? Why am I not persistent? He was a very persistent man, but he had in this case, a wife who really kind of got him going. And who's been like the inspiration in your life? Because, to be obsessed the way you are, and I'm going to use the word obsessed, you must have somebody who's, kind of pushing you forward. Maybe not even a person who you can explain, but a person in your mind.
Well,
who inspired you?
My family, my mother, my wife, Vera, and of course Bob Richards, the Olympic champion way back when. He instilled in me motivation and that I could be different, and my goal has been to be different. We can all be the same, and we can just flounder or we can excel, and life is very short. So I actually, it's really strange in a way, but I actually draw inspiration when I see a person who passed away. I actually draw inspiration. It really fires me up I have to do much more.
Explain that to our audience, please, if you will, John, because I'm really trying to understand a person who's died. How does that person inspire you?
It just reminds me that life can be short. So in the book, we talk about that you've got to get up and do things now. But we also give you hope and inspiration that people are living much longer than they did years before. Great-grandfathers passed away 35 years old, 40 years old. Now people are living into their 90s, 100. It's not a big deal to see 100. I believe that the oldest woman ever was 123. And there's one right now who's alive at 116, I believe, and I just put her in the book, a Japanese woman. And yes, this is really the best time in the world to be alive due to technology and so forth. Let's take a look at writing a book.
Yeah.
If it was 1920, do you know how difficult it would be for me to do my research? And how easy it is to do my research now.
Yeah.
And everybody can write a book, but will they? Everybody can run a marathon, but will they? Are you fired up enough? See, an inventor, a writer, a marathon runner, they have to keep their eyes focused on the finish line. There's going to be obstacles all during that. A runner will get a cramp. A writer will get block. An inventor will have thousands of failures, and another person would just give up, throw the towel in. But an inventor just keeps going because he's got that finish line in his mind. He will succeed. The inventor will succeed. That's his mindset. It's just that, all right, let's get these annoying things out of the way. So an inventor treats failure the way we treat a red light. We stopped at a red light. We just deal with it along the way. That's what an inventor does, because nothing is going to stop him. And with my book, this latest self-help book, nothing in the world will stop me. I am just consumed, probably more than any other book they've ever written, because I have to get it out there for people.
You know, it's an interesting thing, John. I heard, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but more people after the age 50 become millionaires than before. And maybe it's because you have to hit bottom to go to the top. And when you do that, it's like running a marathon. You just sprint, and there you are doing what you thought was great, and you really, it pays off. So when we talk about pays off, to you, is it money that makes you feel really great, or is it the idea that you're getting the word out about something that you feel passionate about?
I write books not for money at all. Not that it would be nice to have extra money, but
of course,
I'm not writing it for that. I'm writing it for one person. One person. When that one person comes out of the woodwork and says, John, I read that book. I can't believe that book. I could not put it down. That is what inspires me to the next book. When somebody comes with my other 3 self-help books, which if people pick them up, they're out there on Amazon and wherever. If they pick them up, they will be fired up themselves, because we talk about success from failure of celebrities and inventors and all kinds of people. But when that person comes back and says, I enjoyed that book, I've had people come back and tell me that they've written their own book by my book motivating them to write their own book they always wanted to write.
Interesting. What about movie companies or TV? Have they approached you at all with one of the books that they think would make a great story?
We have 7 movie scripts, and one is basically in the producer's hands right now, and that one is Defying Death in Hagerstown. And that one is these novels, every one of the novels, the self-help books will change your life, but the novels are so interesting that you visualize the movie. They're very, very visual, all the novels. The latest one that, I'm losing track of how many are out right now, but Death to the Prosecution just came out a couple of weeks ago, and that is basically a fiction mafia story, and it is about basically an old mafia kingpin who, in his days, he's killed hundreds of people and given the orders for people to die and whatever. And though he's being admired by many people because of the wealth and his looks and whatever, and he's on trial for his life at this point. But suddenly, before the trial starts, the head prosecutor dies mysteriously. And we have an assistant prosecutor now thrown into the mix, taken over. And there's a lot of fear in this book. Is he going to get even with the prosecutor and kill him before the trial is over? Will he be found guilty? Will he go to jail and die in jail because he is old? Will the snitch, Rocky the Bots, we call him Bots is his nickname. The mob kingpin's name is Big Hands.
Big Hands?
Yeah, Big Hands.
Okay.
Big Hands, because what he used to do is strangle his victims to death with his hands. But the snitch is Rocky the Bots. And will he actually go through in the trial and rat out the mobster or not? Or will he die? Or will the jurors die? So there's a lot of you just keep turning the pages on this one. That's a great movie too.
Yeah, it sounds like it is.
I wrote the movie script before the book was even published.
Right. That's your craft, John. You have that ability to get something going, and not only going, but to get something really interesting so that it is a page turner. But what I want to understand also is that there is something that you do when you prepare. I want you to take, for other writers, for young writers, for older writers, for anybody who's starting to write, I want you to take them through the process. How do you start the whole adventure of getting a book out in the market?
Do I start? How about the writing of it?
That's what I want to know. I want to know, what it is that kind of step by step, what you do to get a book on the shelves.
Well, you've got to have something that is so interesting to you personally that you will be able to complete the marathon. And writing a book is a marathon. Better Off Dead, the first mafia fiction book I ever wrote, way, way back when, took 5 years to write. That was my first book, and I was inspired to write that because I took my life insurance career and built it into the mafia story where we have a young life insurance agent being sucked in by the mob, used to write insurance on people, and they suddenly start dying. And he was unaware that these people were going to be killed. So it's called Better Off Dead. And then we did a Better Off Dead in Paradise. But what do? You come up with something that you feel driven about, because it may take you 3, 4, 5 years. And what you do basically is, all right, you come up with an idea. Give the book a title. Doesn't have to be a permanent title. Give it a title. Now give it a picture. Go on the internet and just find a picture that portrays basically what the book would be about. Put the title on the picture. Put the picture all over the house. Put it on the refrigerator, put it on the nightstand, put it at work, put it in the car. And when people ask you, what the heck are you doing? I'm writing a book. And the book should be done in 3 years. What's it called? Well, it's called Brender, the famous radio host.
Well, thank you very much.
Whatever the book is, and you tell people I'm going to do it. Then you sit down and you start coming up with scenes that are going to play out, and it's going to change. You come up with scenes, and basically what that's doing is giving you the exterior of a jigsaw puzzle. Because when you start a jigsaw puzzle, you're going to not starting with the middle, you're not finishing it, you're starting with the edge, because you can then build from the edge. Well, here's what you're doing. You're building from the scenes. And the scenes are going to change, and you're going to come up with different ideas along the way. I sometimes am stuck for days, a week, 2 weeks. And what I will do is I will put it into my mind. I'm very, very deep in that way by putting things into my mind. Inventors think this way too. They put the problem in their mind, and then they fall off to sleep. And many, many times, I'll wake up in the middle of the night. I'll take the pen and paper on the nightstand, and I'll jot down a note. I wake up in the morning, and I look at it, and I said, what the heck was that? Because I don't even remember what the idea was, but it's on paper. The answer comes to you because you've impressed it on your mind. You put it into your subconscious, and that's in the self-help books, all the self-help books, we talk about the subconscious mind and how powerful it is. And by you feeding your subconscious mind thoughts and instructions and positive commandments, all of a sudden your life will start to change.
There you go. So are you a religious man? Do you have, the kind of idea that life is also very beautiful if you believe in something? And I'm just wondering if you're very religious, which also inspires you to write certain books?
Yes, we touch on a lot of faith in the books. Do I go to church and sit in a pew? Absolutely not. But do I communicate to God in my own way? Yes. And have I done a lot of research on saints and people who have had afterlife experiences and spoken to God and whatever and have messages? Yeah, so there's a lot of faith in the books, even in the fiction books.
Mm-hmm. What about spirituality, John? Because I'm reading a synopsis of your Conrad's Answers to Life's Purpose, which is a book that's due in 12 months, you said. And it sounds like a very spiritual kind of book. And spirituality is a very special thing for a lot of people. You are spiritual, I assume.
Well, yeah, and that's basically from reading for many, many years. I was reading different things about saints and so forth. And yeah, I believe there is definitely something after here. I also am into a psychic from England, and I've been following her for many years. She's on Facebook, and that's another book. The Psychic Crime Solver will be coming out. Probably was just finished, I think, at the Typist. Mm-hmm. That's going to be published by an English publisher. But it's an English woman who now lives in the United States. She's a psychic, routinely hired to speak to spirits. And I follow this woman on Facebook, and I listen to her videos of her recounting what she's done with clients, because she does readings for clients over the internet and over the waves. And it is amazing. And what I found is she's actually gotten, from spirit, she's gotten communications from people that have dementia, in a coma, and they're not dead. And she's getting full-blown messages from these people to give back to the family members who cannot communicate with that family member.
And you're writing a book that deals with that.
Oh, yeah. That's done. That book is going to come out. That's called the Psychic Crime Solver.
Wow.
And again, that's fiction, but yes. So I have strong belief, and I put it in the books, all the different books.
Well, we're at the end of the show, John, so I always ask my guests if you have the last word, and I'm interested in understanding what that is.
Well, they could look me up on johnpaulbooks.com, johnpaulbooks.com, on Amazon and so forth. And for the first 3 people that listen to this show and email me through my website, they can pick a book, and I will mail it out to them and sign it for them free of charge. So I want to give back. I feel really good when somebody I'm sending my self-help books out to people on Facebook when I see that they have problems and they have a lot of sickness and they're dealing with it. I tell them, private message me, I'll send you a self-help book. And people, they love that. So giving back, it makes you feel good to give somebody something, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, from my standpoint, for sure. And I'm sure that you are giving back the way people need to hear your fabulous words that you've written. So my guest today has been John Carinci, who's an author of almost 19 books already. And he's also an insurance agent who's learned that life is short, and he wants to make it as possible and as exciting as he can for you. So thank you, John Carinci, for being on the Susan Brender Show. It's a pleasure.
Great. And thank you for helping so many people. Thank you for having me and helping so many people all the time. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, John.